Daniel stood by the side of Head of State Junction, watching steam rise from the hood of his Toyota Corolla. The engine hadn't just died, it had screamed. A rod had shot right through the block. It was not surprising, really. In the last 24 hours, Daniel had lost his job as a mid-level auditor. His landlord had issued a quick notice, and his girlfriend had sent him a breakup text. He kicked the tire hard. Pain shot up his leg, and that was when it happened. The moment the universe laughed. A matte black Mercedes G-Wagon tore through the floodwater next to him. It didn't slow down. It hit a massive pothole, sending a brownish water on Daniel. He stood there, soaked to the bone, shivering, staring at the retreating red tail lights. He wanted to curse the driver. Rather, he squinted through the rain to catch the license plate. It was a custom plate, bold white letters against the black bumper. KC Peterson. Daniel memorized it. He didn't know why. Maybe he just wanted a name to attach to his misery. KC Peterson, the man who had dry clothes, a functioning engine, and somewhere to go. Later, he opened Google and typed in the name, KC Peterson. The screen is filled with images. Daniel stopped breathing. The air felt suddenly thin. He leaned closer, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wasn't looking at a stranger. He was looking at himself. The man in the pictures had the same square jaw, the same deep-set eyes, the same small scar above the left eyebrow. But where Daniel looked gaunt and hungry, this man looked golden. KC Peterson, CEO of Apex Holdings, philanthropist, husband to a former beauty queen. Daniel clicked on a news article from yesterday. KC Peterson closes 3 billion naira deal. The timestamp was 5 p.m., the exact moment Daniel's car engine had exploded. He scrolled down. KC Peterson wins Man of the Year, November 14th. November 14th was the day Daniel was fired. He scrolled further. KC Peterson marries top model, June 3rd. June 3rd was the day Daniel's mother died. It wasn't a coincidence. Every good day from KC's life was a bad day for him. Daniel was the battery powering the life of this man who looks like him, and every time Daniel suffered, KC feasted. Rage began to pool in his stomach. It wasn't fair. This man was stealing his luck. Time to unplug the machine, Daniel whispered to the screen. Finding KC Peterson wasn't hard. The man lived loud. His house was a fortress in Banana Island, white walls and electric fences. With his binoculars and a black hoodie, he camped in the undeveloped bush opposite the mansion. On the fourth night, the plan formed. He watched KC pace around his balcony. The man looked agitated, checking his watch, looking over his shoulder. But to Daniel, he just looked like a target. Daniel knew he couldn't just kill him. If he killed him, the wealth might disappear. No, he had to become him. He had to step into the light. He waited for the perfect moment. It came on a Tuesday. KC's driver didn't show up. KC was driving himself. Daniel knew the route. He knew the dark stretch of road near the construction site where the street lights never worked. He parked his broken down Corolla in the middle of the road. He popped the hood. He waited in the shadows. Headlights appeared. The white LED beams of the G-Wagon cut through the darkness. Daniel's heart hammered. This was it. The G-Wagon slowed down. It stopped. The door opened. KC stepped out. He walked into the beam of his own headlights. "Hey, you can't park there. Move the car." Daniel stepped out from behind the hood. The two men locked eyes. KC stopped. His mouth opened. He dropped his keys. It wasn't fear on his face. It was recognition. He looked at Daniel like he was seeing a ghost he had expected to see for a long time. "You," KC whispered. I knew you existed." Daniel didn't hesitate. He moved too fast that he didn't see KC break into a smile. He swung the tire iron with every ounce of frustration he had suppressed for 30 years. The impact was loud. KC went down. Daniel stood over him, breathing hard. He dragged the body into the bushes. He stripped KC of his clothes, the suit, the watch, the wallet. He changed right there on the side of the road. The suit fit perfectly. He dragged his own old, dirty clothes onto KC's unconscious body. He pushed his old Corolla into the ditch. He walked to the G-Wagon. He sat in the driver's seat. The leather smelled like lavender and success. He looked in the rearview mirror. Daniel was gone. KC Peterson was here. He put the car in drive. He didn't look back at the body in the bushes. He simply drove toward the lights of Banana Island. The gates to the mansion swung open silently. Daniel drove the G-Wagon through, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. He parked. The house manager, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Esther, greeted him. "Welcome home, sir. You are late." Daniel nodded, keeping his head down. "Traffic," he muttered. He remembered the accent he had practiced from the YouTube videos. He walked into the house. It was colder than he expected. Not temperature cold, spiritually cold. He entered the dining room, and there she was, the wife, Caroline. She looked up from her plate. She was breathtaking, but her eyes were red. She had been crying. "You came back," she said softly. It sounded more like a question than a statement. Daniel sat down. "Of course I came back." She stared at him. "I thought you would keep driving. I thought you were finally going to do it." Daniel froze. "Do what?" "I'm just tired," he said, improvising. She reached across the table and took his hand. Her palm was sweating. "The director called, Casey. He said the audit is tomorrow. He said we ran out of time." Daniel pulled his hand away. "Audit?" "I'm going to the study," he said abruptly. He needed to find out what was going on. He found the private study, locking the heavy door behind him. He began tearing through the desk drawers. He found bank statements. They were in the red. Not just broke, billions in debt. He found transfer slips, money moving to shell companies in the Cayman Islands, money moving to politicians. And then he found the diary. It was tucked under a stack of legal papers. He opened it. November 10th. "They are going to pin it all on me. The cartel used my name for everything. I am the face of the fraud." November 12th. "They told me to enjoy the weekend. That's the signal. The cleanup is scheduled for Tuesday night." November 14th. "Today, I have to run. I have to shed this skin. If I stay in this house, I will be found dead, and the police will call it a suicide. I need to find a replacement. I need to disappear." Daniel dropped the book. The blood drained from his face. Casey Peterson hadn't been driving to a meeting. He was fleeing. He wasn't shocked when he saw Daniel on the road. He was relieved. He was probably going to offer him the car, the suit, and the identity willingly. Daniel had just murdered a man who was trying to give him the gift of a death sentence. The phone on the mahogany desk buzzed. A single text message lit up the screen. It says, "We see the car is back. Good decision. Don't try to run again. We have the house surrounded. Make it look like an accident, or we will do it for you." Daniel looked out the window. At the front gate, barely visible in the shadows, were two black vans, unmarked. Men were stepping out, checking their weapons. Daniel scrambled back from the window. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at his throat. He had to get out. He grabbed the car keys and sprinted for the door. But as his hand touched the handle, the door swung open. Mrs. Esther, the house manager, stood there, but the servant was gone. In her place was a soldier. In her hand, she held a pistol with a long black silencer. "Where are you going, sir?" she asked. Her voice was flat. Daniel backed away until he hit the desk. I forgot something in the car." Mrs. Esther stepped into the room. She raised the gun, aiming directly at his chest. "There is nothing in the car you need. You signed the papers yesterday, Casey. You took the fall for the missing billions. That was the deal. You live like a king for 5 years, and when the auditors come, you take the bullet." "I'm not him," Daniel screamed, the truth bursting out of him. "I'm not Casey. I'm Daniel. I stole his car. I'm a nobody." Mrs. Esther paused. She tilted her head. She studied his face. She saw the terror, the raw desperation that the real Casey had long since lost. She smiled. It was a cruel thing. "It doesn't matter who you are," she whispered. "The world knows this face is guilty, and tonight, this face has to die." She pulled the trigger. The muzzle flashed. The vase next to Daniel's head exploded into dust. Daniel threw the heavy diary at her face and dove through the glass doors onto the balcony. He didn't look down. He jumped over the railing. He hit the garden soil hard. His ankle twisted. The pain was blinding, but the fear was stronger. He dragged himself through the mud, gasping for air. His phone, the old cracked Android he had kept in his pocket, buzzed against his leg. A bullet zipped inches from his face. Daniel scrambled up, limping toward the high electric fence. He could hear the dogs barking. He could hear the sirens approaching. He wasn't running toward the good life anymore. He was running back to the gutter. Rain began to fall as Daniel limped through the dense bushes, the mud soaking at his Italian shoes. He reached the perimeter wall. It was 12 feet high, topped with humming electric wire. There was no way out. He was trapped in the paradise he had stolen. He slumped against the wall. The footsteps were here. The flashlight beams caught through the rain. "Check the north wall," Mrs. Esther's voice commanded. Daniel stood up. There was no point in hiding in the dirt anymore. When things were going well for KC, Daniel was suffering. And when things were about to go bad for KC, Daniel took over his life. If he had been patient, maybe the coin would have flipped to his side. Daniel stepped out of the bushes and into the blinding light. "I am here," he said. 3 red laser dots appeared on his chest. Mrs. Esther stepped forward. She looked at him with professional detachment. "Any last words, Mr. Peterson?" Daniel looked at the sky. He thought about his old broken-down Toyota Corolla. He thought about the peace of being a nobody. "Yes," Daniel said softly. Tell him the balance is paid." The thunder cracked, drowning out the sound of the gunshot. The next morning, the newspapers ran 2 stories. On page 1, anonymous homeless man finds rare diamond in gutter, donates to orphanage. On page 7, a small column at the bottom, disgraced CEO found dead in apparent suicide after financial scandal.